On behalf of the Danish Data Center Association and UNEP DTU Partnership, a warm welcome to this year's Data Center Summit Denmark. We look forward to engaging with you over the next few days discussing the importance of data center sustainability. Many thanks for all of our partners, our speakers, and of course the attendees for tuning in today. I will now hand over the virtual microphone to Susanna Kass, who is the Energy Fellow at Stanford University and the co-founder at InfoPrime. Susanna will lead the plenary keynote session today, which includes a presentation from Google. The floor is yours, Susanna.
Hello, my name is Susanna Kass. Good day to you, and thank you for all of you joining us today for our opening keynote session of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 2021 Data Center Summit. Our keynote session is titled Building and Constructing Sustainable Cloud Across the Globe. I am very, very excited, and we have arranged an industry luminary, Joe Kava, Vice President of Global Data Center from Google, to speak on this very important topic today. Joe leads the Google team responsible for the entire data center lifecycle, from design, site selection, power purchasing, research, engineering, construction management, critical facility operations, including the hardware operations and environmental health and safety, which is really important in the data center industry. And more importantly, it aligns very well with the UN SDG goal in the sustainability and physical security effort that Google entire global fleet of data center. Joe, you joined Google 13 years ago. Well, time certainly passed by very quickly. You brought to Google significant experience prior to you joining him from both the commercial data center and the semiconductor industry. I personally learned from you over many decades, so does many people in the data center and energy industry. So thank you for doing what you always do, and you and your team every day. It is really important to have your ambition and your strong advocate for building sustainable data center. And it is absolutely a pleasure to have you today to join us, to share with us the experience that you have encountered so we can continue to learn from you. So with that, I think I'd like to turn it over to you and we can start today's keynote session. Thank you very much, Joe, for joining us today.
Hi, Susanna. Thank you very much for that kind introduction. And I'd like to thank the Danish data center industry and your partners for hosting this virtual summit. For those of you who I haven't had the opportunity to meet, my name is Joe Kava. I lead the teams at Google that are responsible for designing, building, planning, and operating all of Google's data centers across the globe. As Susanna mentioned, I've spent my career in both commercial data centers as well as the semiconductor industry. And I've been leading Google's data center program for 13 years. And today, more than ever, the world is counting on us in the data center industry to keep the critical infrastructure running, to enable people to work from home, enable global business to business and business to consumer commerce, to enable families and friends to remain in contact when we can't be there with each other physically. At Google, we take this responsibility very seriously. And as you can imagine, we have been seeing some amazing spikes in demand for our services around the world. In light of this situation and the importance of our shared responsibility when it comes to building on a foundation of trust, this remains at the heart of the decisions that we make every day. And of course, I'm here to tell you about the bold steps that we're taking to address another immensely serious situation facing our world, climate change, of course. As a global leader, we at Google believe that we have an immense responsibility to act. We're proud of the actions that we've taken in step with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals so far, and we look forward to continuing to help the transition to clean energy. We believe that with this immense challenge comes an immense opportunity to leverage our ambitious commitments and expertise for everyone. Google has just entered our third decade of climate action, and now we're pursuing our most ambitious goal yet. But before going into that, let me highlight a little bit about why we need data centers and why sustainability is so important to us. So what do Google data centers do? Well, for one thing, they power search. Every Google search that you perform is processed in a Google data center. Our data centers process millions of search queries every minute, and that equals trillions of searches every year. And every minute, we have hundreds of hours of YouTube video that is uploaded, and we deliver millions of YouTube video plays per day. Each view only requires a tiny amount of energy, but when you multiply it across the world, all of that really does add up. Every day, people watch over 1 billion hours. If we were to sit and watch 1 billion hours of YouTube, it would take over 100,000 years. Now, I could spend the rest of my time today telling you about the incredible statistics and the amazing things that our 1 billion plus users on Google Cloud are doing with our products. But what I'm really trying to get at is that Google Cloud users need high performance computing. They need it available 24/7, around the clock, and in places that matter to them. So all of these Google products run in all of our data centers. Demand for our services is growing every year, and we continue to see energy growth along with that demand. As a matter of fact, in 2019, total Alphabet global electricity consumption was 12.2 terawatt hours, and it will keep rising. The stakes to our business are exceptionally high, and energy is one of the highest costs of operations to keep the Google infrastructure running. So a picture of the landscape. We own and operate 21 data center campuses around the world on 4 continents, and we have 15 subsea cable investments. This is one of the largest global networks in the world. We continue to add new sites to better serve our customers everywhere. Each campus comprises multiple data centers where the vast majority of our facilities, servers, networking equipment, and cooling infrastructure are pretty much designed from the ground up by Google for maximum efficiency and minimal environmental impact. And of course, I'm very proud to announce that we have a brand new data center in Fredericia, Denmark. It was opened last November. It's a big, important milestone for us. This was an investment of over 600 million euros, and I'm happy to say it's one of the greenest data centers in our fleet. So this is what it looks like inside the building of one of our data centers with aisles and aisles of servers. Google's infrastructure allows billions of search results in milliseconds, serves over 1 billion hours of YouTube video daily, and provides storage for more than 1 billion Gmail users. And for more than a decade, we've worked to make Google's data centers some of the most efficient in the world, improving their environmental performance, even as demand for our products has risen dramatically. We've done this by designing, building, and operating each one to maximize efficient use of energy, water, and materials. Efficient data centers help us better serve our users in a more sustainable way. But how do we define sustainability? Well, for us, sustainability involves efficient use of resources, moving to 24/7 carbon-free energy, smart reuse, and zero waste to landfill. And this certainly includes applying our circular economy principles to design out waste, keep materials in use longer, and regenerate natural systems. For instance, when we can't find new use for our equipment in our data centers, we completely erase any components that stored data, and then we redistribute them into the secondary market. As a matter of fact, in 2019, 9.9 million units or components of Google infrastructure were ultimately reused by other organizations. And I'm proud to say that 6 of our data centers have achieved 100% landfill diversion. And globally, across all of our data centers, we're at more than 90% diversion. When it comes to construction, we're focused on building in strategic locations to maximize our efficiency. It's best to build, from our perspective, over a long-term horizon. So we typically plan for developing a campus at least for a minimum of a 10-year horizon. You know, our cloud customers require our data centers in locations that really work best for them. Our number of locations and our network is what really differentiates us. We have a rigorous time-tested site selection process. And, you know, more importantly, these days, access to carbon-free energy is an increasingly important criteria that we look for when selecting a data center site. For as long as we've been building and operating data centers, we've been advocates for efficiency and sustainability. At Google data centers, some of the most energy efficient and environmentally friendly data centers in the world. And we have sustainability built in right from the start. You know, we believe that the best energy saved is the energy not consumed in the first place. That's why we've been hyper focused on efficiency from the very beginning of our data center program. Today, our data centers lead the industry in efficiency, and typically they are twice as efficient of the normal enterprise data center. And compared with just 5 years ago, we now deliver about 7 times as much computing power with the same amount of electrical energy consumption. So essentially, we're getting a lot more searches, a lot more Gmail serve, and a lot more cat videos on YouTube with the same amount of energy. Much of this improvement has come from new innovations with accelerators, such as our tensor processing units, which are highly efficient chips that we designed specifically for machine learning applications. And organizations that move their IT infrastructure and collaboration applications from a self-managed data center or from a co-location facility to a Google Cloud data center, they reduce their net carbon emissions of their computing to effectively zero net emissions. Businesses that switch from locally hosted solutions to Google Workplace have reported reductions in energy and carbon emissions by up to 85%. And a business that uses Gmail can reduce their greenhouse gas emissions and the impact of its email service by up to 98% compared to running their email on-premise. So not only is our cloud the cleanest in the industry, but in 2020, Google neutralized our entire legacy carbon footprint. I'm really proud to be able to say that. This means that every search ever made on Google, every Gmail ever sent, every YouTube video ever delivered and watched has a net zero carbon footprint. That's a really impressive accomplishment. But the discussion of sustainability is also coming up more and more with our cloud customers. Instead of it being a nice to have, it really is now becoming a differentiator for cloud services. So this chart shows our PUE. As you can see, our PUE, or power usage effectiveness, these are, you know, kind of a measure of our improvements over the years. It's an important measure of how we gauge our efficient designs. So for those that aren't really familiar with this, a PUE of 2 means that for every 1 watt of energy consumed to power IT systems, an additional watt is consumed to cool and distribute power to the IT equipment. A PUE closer to 1 means that nearly all of the energy is used for computing. And our global fleet of data centers in 2019 hit a new record low of 1.1 PUE. This compares to an industry average of 1.67. That means that Google data centers use about 6 times less overhead energy for every unit of IT equipment energy. In addition, Google's machine learning enables the analysis of massive amounts of operational data and data to create actionable recommendations and automated controls. This has led to about a 30% reduction in energy consumed, as you can see from the green line on this graph. And as you would expect, with typical ML-based systems, they get better over time with the more data that they process. And that's exactly what we've seen with respect to the data center behavior. We're also using machine learning to reduce data center carbon footprints by shifting flexible compute tasks to align with greener hours on the grid. We want to see each data center improve over time to 100% carbon-free energy matching at all times. In April 2020, we announced the first of its kind system that shifts flexible tasks in our data centers to better align with carbon-free hours on the grid. We've been able to do this without incurring any new hardware costs or impacting the performance of our services for our users, which we hope means that this type of a system can find broad applications for many companies and many industries around the world. So far, the early results are very promising. While the true long-term carbon impact of our work will depend on how electricity providers respond, we could reduce the average daily carbon intensity of our electricity consumption by as much as 3% when this is scaled globally. In fact, I want to mention that we've been partnering with one of the fellow participants in this summit, Tomorrow Company, to help build a more transparent energy data technology to better access and plan our usage. And going further, through this partnership, we are sharing this technology so that everyone can better understand their own electricity usage. And together, Google and Tomorrow are helping to propel the movement towards a cleaner grid for all, helping tackle the hurdles that stand in the way of a clean energy transition. Now, our construction of new data centers is increasingly focused on repurposing existing infrastructure. More than just bringing modern infrastructure to a site of a former coal-fired power plant, we're also putting more carbon-free energy on the electrical grids that will help power our servers in that region. So in coming years, Google will purchase the output of several new solar farms that total over 413 megawatts of power from more than 1.6 million solar panels. That's equal to about 65,000 rooftop residential solar installations. Since 2010, we've signed more than 52 wind and solar agreements to purchase a total of more than 5.5 gigawatts of renewable power that is new to the grid. Our agreements have resulted in more than $2.7 billion of investment worldwide since 2010. We have agreements in place to purchase energy on 4 continents today. In 2020, we matched 100% of our electricity consumption from our operations with purchases of renewable energy. And this is for the 4th consecutive year. We've been 100% matched with renewable energy since 2017. So what do you do when your data center is devoted to increasing energy efficiency, but it's already one of the most energy efficient in the world? Well, you start creating your own energy, of course. Launched in October of 2017, we put into operations a ground-mounted PV solar panel system that consists of over 10,600 solar panels, and it's on the Belgian grid at our data center in Belgium. It helps to reduce the demand on the Belgian grid. It cuts carbon dioxide emissions. It's helping meet the objective of the voluntary agreements that we have signed while building momentum for renewable energy in that region. And here you can see what our energy journey has looked like over the years. While going carbon neutral and achieving 100% renewable energy have been major milestones, we recognize that addressing climate change will require doing more. So our aspiration is a simple one. By 2030, we intend to source carbon-free energy to match Google's energy use in all places at all times. True 7x24 carbon-free energy. In parallel to maintaining our annual 100% renewable energy purchase goals, we recognize that fully decarbonizing the electricity sector really does require 24/7 carbon-free energy. This goal is going to require significant corporate actions to bring about large-scale shifts in global energy use. Google is leading this effort, and we're the first major company to set the goal of 24/7 carbon-free energy by 2030. And when it comes to accomplishing this goal, our data center work is truly at the top of the list. Pursuing this long-term objective is important for elevating carbon-free energy and being an important but limited element of the global electricity supply portfolio today to a resource that fully powers our operations and ultimately the entire electric grid. So really what we're trying to say is that we want to move from something that is limited availability today to something that is globally available that will really dramatically change the way that the entire grid is operated. And our support for clean energy has gone hand in hand with reducing our carbon footprint. Our services work around the clock, and so should our commitment to carbon neutrality. So once again, I want to emphasize that we aspire by 2030 to be operating on carbon-free energy on a truly 24/7 basis. We're continuously working towards that goal already. If we're able to achieve this objective, we can imagine what kind of an impact that really could make. All right, so how are we going to do it? Well, to achieve 7x24 carbon-free energy, in Google's operations, we need to do the following. We need to advance new approaches for procuring clean energy. We need to drive progress in next generation technologies. And lastly, we need to partner to advocate for smart public policy. As we did with 100% renewable energy, we will strive to move our goal in a way that creates opportunities for others and accelerates the global transition to clean energy. So in this slide, you can see how we're doing. These hourly clocks represent each of our data center locations all over the world. And you can see generally how clean the grid is on an hour-for-hour basis at each of these sites. And so where do we currently stand? Well, in 2019, on an hourly basis, 61% of all the electricity we used across all of our data center sites was matched with regional carbon-free sources. So this adds up to our data centers being powered by clean energy at a higher rate than what already exists on the grids. So here's a few examples from back in 2019. The percentages on the right represent the fraction of annual data center electricity that was matched with carbon-free sources on an hourly basis, which, as you can see, are much higher than the status quo scenarios on those local grids. This is thanks to Google's large-scale procurement of renewable sources on those grids. So basically adding new additional carbon-free energy on the local grids in which we operate. You know, our desire for a more consumer-focused energy marketplace stems in a large part from our own business needs. But our perspective and vision extends beyond just the walls of Google. We strongly believe that this can benefit all types of consumers, from residential to small business to other large companies. In fact, 2019 was the biggest year ever for corporate renewable energy procurement, with more than 18 gigawatts of deals signed globally. Cumulatively, that makes over 48 gigawatts of deals signed to date. Corporate procurement is heading in a good direction, but we need to maintain and ramp up that momentum. And we believe that a shift towards a consumer-focused energy marketplace is vital to make that happen. You know, in recent years, we've taken direct action to make energy marketplaces more customer-focused, and the results have been promising so far. We want to catalyze energy innovation for all, not just for us. We want a clear path and an open platform or marketplace for all companies to source clean energy. And we want every organization to have a viable and cost-effective pathway to source carbon-free energy. Cost-effective, carbon-free, and consumer-focused are simple goals, but there's clearly a lot more to do to get there. You know, based on the IPCC reports, we have 10 years to decarbonize the economy if we want to limit global warming to only 1.5 degrees Celsius, which would prevent the worst consequences of climate change. We know we have our work cut out for us, and we couldn't be more excited to push forward as leaders in this space. Because, you know, at our scale, we believe we have a responsibility, not just to our users, but to the environment overall. We strive to be sustainability leaders because these are our communities. This is where we work, we live, we play. And as a global company, our goal is to give everyone, everywhere, the tools and opportunities they need to play their own part in protecting the planet. So please visit our google.com/datacenters site to learn more. And also please check out our podcast. It's called Where the Internet Lives. It gives you an inside look into our data centers. So thank you very much. And with that, I'd like to hand it back over to Susanna.
Thank you, Joe, for your vision, and today for sharing exemplary results of the Google's global data center leadership in building sustainable data center while you're implementing a clean cloud strategy. Ambition is truly inspiring. Joe, you are very also passionate about educating the global data center industry, so we all learn from you every day. When you speak, we should all listen because we can benefit from many years of best practices pioneered by your vision and the exemplary results by the Google team. We are very grateful for what you and your team do for the industry every day, and we learn from you, and hopefully your passion also encourage other young people to join the data center industry. So thank you again for taking the time to be our keynote speaker today at the UN SDG Data Center Summit.
Thank you very much.